Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of April 21st, 2022. We'll start this meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Ms. Kinchin?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Clemens.
Mr. Simmons?
Here, present.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Present.
Miss Jordan?
Karen Jordan, I think she meant to say.
Ms. Jordan will be excused from tonight, Janet.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Cristino?
Present.
Mr. Lucier?
Present.
And Miss Battles?
Here.
And Mr. Alvarez is not here yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Announcements for this evening. Ms. Jordan and Mr. Alvarez are excused from tonight's meeting. Mr. Cristino will be the voting member this evening, and we would like to welcome Ms. Battles to tonight's meeting and to our committee. We're delighted to have you. Thank you. Okay, you have all received, members of the committee, you have all received a copy of the meetings of our last meeting, March 17th. The chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion for approval of the minutes, March 17th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Was the motion made by Ms. Kinchin?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And the next order of business is a scheduled.
I'm going to have to recuse myself from this order of business.
Understood. Thank you. We loved
Who was
having you
that?
even though it was brief.
May I know who that was who recused herself?
Sarah Battles.
Thank you.
Okay, the next order of business is a scheduled public hearing, and it states here, removed from table? Could I have a staff report on this?
I would suspect this. So this was, we had discussed this at the March 17th meeting, and there were still some issues that you wanted staff to look into, possible revisions. So we had tabled, you made a motion at the 17th to table this item. So at this point, you would make a motion to take the item off the table and officially put it onto this agenda, and then you can continue the public hearing.
Okay.
Just for a point of clarity, it must be second, no discussions, majority vote.
Okay, the chair will entertain such a motion.
Go ahead, John.
So I motion that we put back on the table the motion that was postponed at the last meeting. Is that correct?
Second.
Local planning agency public hearing.
All in favor?
Concerning, okay.
I'm sorry.
Second by Ms. Kinchin.
All in favor of that motion? Signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Officially back on the table for tonight's meeting is a public hearing. Could we have our attorney read the ordinance, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is a public hearing recommendation to City Council ordinance number 02206, Land Development Code Amendment, Article 5, by adding transfer of density and density incentive program regulation, amending Article 11 by adding the coastal high hazard area and to provide for tolerability, conflict, codification, scrivener's errors, and for an effective date.
Thank you. Staff presentation?
Good evening, Commissioners. Several months back, not several months back, about a month back, we had reviewed this ordinance thoroughly. We had provided you all with the option to table it and then bring it back up at a future meeting. Well, your time certain was tonight, in order to finalize any discussion. And we incorporated any of the changes that you had at that time. Staff and our consultant reviewed both Section 54-2-5.16 as well as 54-2-5.17, and of course, then the 54-3-11.12 in regard to the conversation we all had at the last meeting. Was that March 17th? What you will find is that 5.16, the transfer of development rights, there weren't many changes at all that were made to that section. However, for the coastal high hazard area, the 11.12 section, we didn't make many modifications to that. The majority of changes occurred for 54-2-5.17 development incentives. If you recall, we had discussed whether we wanted to just delineate potential benefits as far as what the incentives were, the public benefit infrastructure, if you will, or attempt to put numbers to it, if you will. You give a bike rack, we give you one density. It just didn't line up very well, and we found that there really wasn't any good examples from other municipalities or local governments utilizing that. So we felt that we would go back to what we do today in our PUDs, in our assessments of our planned unit developments, giving them that flexibility when they provide public infrastructure benefits. So we felt that that would possibly be the best way to go with this. We have delineated some public benefit infrastructure standards, some good ideas, that it's not an exhaustive list, but it is a list which meets the items we put in our comprehensive plan and by which we have always measured as public benefits during the PUD process. We did not allocate numbers to it. That became very cumbersome, didn't come out very fair, and we felt that that was just not the correct way to go. So that was the biggest change that you would see in that section and overall. So I'm open to any questions from the commission. Dory is here also. She worked very, very closely with Kelly Klepper with Kimley Horn and Associates to come to that conclusion pretty much. And so we're here to answer your questions regarding this.
Thank you.
If I could follow up with that, the reason what we did was after we had with Kinley Horn, we had established the amount of units that some of these incentives would occur. A bicycle rack, so many would be 2 extra units. But we also have some applications in the pipeline, and working with them and determining what their 10% additional density could be. One was 29 units, and we started trying to add up these units on how they would get to their possible 29 units, and it did get very cumbersome on all these different items and incentives that they could put together to get those additional units. So I think we removed them after talking to Lisa, and I know for myself, when a project comes in, we're going to rely very heavily on that section that says that they have to submit to us a development incentive program. They have to put together, and not just very general, oh, we're going to throw some bike racks in, but I know I'm going to be looking for something, and Lisa, something very specific with the amount of things that they're going to be doing and the types of LIDs in a development proposal that would then come to you with their application, whether it's a site plan or subdivision, PUD, conceptual plan, that you will determine, and with City Council determine if this development program is warranting the amount of increased density that they want.
Okay,
I just wanted to, is this consistent with what we discussed a few months ago with, say, the addition of leaving a natural park in the development, how much credit we were going to give them, and so on? I believe we've been leading up to this.
That's correct. So for FB, it goes into parks and open space, and some ideas of the parameters we would accept as part of this public benefit, such as natural and conservation areas in accordance with Section 54-3-11.5C, and the minimum parameters including 5 acres or larger, horizontal dimensions no less than 50 feet, contiguous and determined to be of ecological importance.
Yeah, I read all of that.
Yeah.
So this isn't all to do with the coastal high hazard
I'm
area.
sorry?
It's not contingent upon having property in the coastal high hazard area as far as credits. It's for anyone that wants to develop in the city.
That's correct. The
So
transfer.
we'll have these incentives available.
Correct. The transfer of development rights are to incentivize development away from the coastal high hazard area.
All right, the only other question, how much property is really available in the coastal high hazard area to begin with? In Sebastian, we really don't seem to have a lot that isn't developed.
Not very much. It's really along Indian River Drive, and we only have, what, 1.5 miles of that.
Yeah.
You never know what could come in. I doubt much more along the shoreline. But, and then, of course, we have some areas along the river in the west. But you're correct. That's just one incentive area. This is transfer of development rights are also for ecologically sensitive areas to get development out of them. Please also remember, with these incentives, it is over and above what would be required for a regular development plan, right? So we'll require sidewalks, so they can't come in and say, well, I'm going to put sidewalks in. Well, good, you have to anyway. So, it would have to be over and above what is required from Chapter 4. Excuse me.
An example would be is if somebody came in with 100 units, and based on their park and recreation requirements, they would need to come up with at least 1 acre of parks and rec. That's the requirement. To get an extra 10%, an extra 10 units, they would have to possibly provide an extra 5-acre park size to be able to get that incentive. So your land use is always going to establish what your density is allowed for the comp plan. Maybe it's 10 units per acre. To be able to get up to the 12 units per acre, at least 10% of that can be done through the incentives, and it can be a combination of this, and that's the development program. So if their site plan comes in and their plat comes in and they're showing us, here's the acre that's required by code, but this is the other 5 acres, or this is the other things that we're going to put in, then you would be deciding, yes, we'll give you that extra 10% of density based on the incentives or the transfer of development rights or the amount of affordable housing that they are proposing.
I'm all set, thank you. Answered my questions.
no question? I have a question. Will we be able to provide to the potential persons asking for, to have incentives, a list of suggested incentives that, or are we just going to say, hey, guys, come up with something?
Well, no, that is what's in front of you this evening, Ms. Kattenberg.
Okay, this is what will be given to them as a suggestion then, but we are open to other suggestions.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is why it says it's not an exhaustive list.
Okay, thank you.
This matches what we said, could be things in our comp plan, so we downloaded it into here, along with other ideas that we have garnered and heard in the past to make our community more sustainable and livable.
I think this is the baby stuff. I don't think it's going to go very far in solving the problem of obtainable housing at obtainable cost, but I recognize it as being a beginning, and I hope it's only a beginning.
We had, we did follow up on that conversation from our last meeting, and we had, Lisa was doing a great job frantically trying to put something in this particular section for the attainable housing. And we kind of took a step back. We didn't want to rush it, but it occurred to us, if you're familiar with our zoning districts, in RM8, we have the zoning specifics for new lot sizes, what the setbacks have to be, and also within that zoning district, we then established our townhouse regulations. And so it occurred to us that I think when we put together and bring in the RM10, the new zoning district for RM10.
And mixed use.
And mixed use, in either one of those new zoning districts, we'll put in some attainable housing standards. And we felt that that was a better fit in the zoning districts versus the incentives. And at that point, then we can set up attainable housing for, 5,000 square foot lots, maximum 1,100 square foot houses, or things like that, that will set it up in the zoning districts versus in the incentive sections.
That's correct. There's a really, really good article, because, I'm all about research and I don't want to reinvent the wheel. We have to utilize things that are working in other areas and are tried and true. Otherwise, actually this that you have in front of you is pretty new, and we're going to be rubbing the fur off the baby here because it's not in many areas. And but the ULI, the Urban Land Institute, they are one of the forerunners that many planners go to for their ideas, and they really try to marry planning with development and try to make it work. And they have a fabulous article about attainable housing and what the sizes are and the ways that you can utilize those definitions and those uses in your code. So Dory's correct. I was trying to squeeze it in here, and then we sat back and said, no, this is not the appropriate place. It's much more appropriate to put it in those zoning categories. So that's what you will be seeing in the near future.
I agree with you. It would be more appropriate there, and I am anxiously awaiting it. Other questions? No other questions? Okay. Do we have some public input? Anyone on Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom.
Okay. We are now closing this hearing. Any deliberation going on here, commissioners?
No, should we pass this now? Should we forward this to city council at this point?
Yeah, you have to make a motion.
If we have a motion?
Needs a motion.
Come on, here's a motion time.
And I'm sorry, if you will, please, at the bottom of your staff memo, the memorandum, you'll see that, we are asking that any motion either find it in compliance or not in compliance with the comprehensive plan as you make your recommendation. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion, please.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve sending this to the city council One, public hearing, ordinance 0-22-06, Land Development Code Amendment. Article 5, by adding transfer of density and density incentive program regulations. Amending Article 11 by adding the coastal high hazard area. And to provide for severability, conflicts, codification, scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Second.
We need to add the wording,
We didn't change anything,
no,
did we?
in accordance.
Oh, you wanted me to add this? I'm sorry.
Find it in compliance.
Add that we find in compliance 0-22-06 with the comprehensive plan and recommend approval. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second?
I do second that.
Okay. We'd like to take a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Ms. Battles?
She is not present.
Mr. Cristino?
Yes.
Mr. Lucier?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Kinchin?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
I'm not sure about Ms. Jordan. Is she there?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry then. Okay, then it is unanimous,
Thank you.
8-0.
Okay. Unfinished business. We have no unfinished business. Next item on the agenda is public input. If anyone from the public would like to speak to us regarding items other than those that are on the printed agenda, we have a 5-minute limit. You are welcome to speak to us now, please. Nobody? All right. Anybody on Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom.
Thank you. New business? No new business. Commissioners' matters?
I don't have anything other than welcoming Sarah, but hopefully she's listening.
No? Mr. Simmons?
No.
No. Me too. Okay, city attorney matters
No, Madam Chair.
and staff?
I have no matters.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Our meeting is formally adjourned. Thank you very much.